Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Saturday, February 8th. So, what's the discussion today? Well, during the week we tend to talk business, right? But on the weekends, it gives me a chance to go off the rail a little bit and kind of look at things that are important to me and I think that you might find entertaining or important that you'd like to hear about or see take place on the channel. So, today I thought we'd try to define what is being successful and how would you rate how close you are to becoming successful. This is probably not going to be what you think it is, so stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know it. And yes, this is the weekend. We have the weekday show, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, it allows me to go off the rails sometimes to talk about personal development and doing things that's just plain right, Because we're trying to decide what successful is to people. And what I may deem successful may be different than what you deem successful. See, in order to be successful, you have to be well rounded. And I've seen a lot of people that were AKA successful in growing a business and making it profitable. But were they truly successful? And some of you may say yes. Absolutely. He did what most people can't do, and now the business is doing very well. What about his home life? What about helping people in the community? What about? That's because you guys have probably got things that you want to say too, of what it is that makes someone successful. And put it in the comments as we go, and it'd be a great talking point. But to me, defining successful, when I started the business, and it wasn't my first business, my other businesses, I would get them to where they were doing well and become bored with it and move on. See, I probably would be independently wealthy if I was smart enough to hire somebody that could manage a day-to-day operation of a business than just shutting the doors. But that was me. I was young, dumb, and how many 19-year-olds do you know that had worked on 3 different dairy farms, went from working for somebody, managing somebody's dairy farm, to owning their own and milking 70 head and having young stock. And I can't take all the credit. My ex-wife was an integral part of that. She probably was the more day-to-day stuff than me. Because I was always on to my next fix, I got to accomplish this or this or this, And nothing pushed me any harder than somebody saying it can't be done. Yes, it can. I can remember, farmers talking amongst themselves saying he's going to burn his barn down because he's putting his hay up before it's dry enough. And it was dry enough. It just had great color, and the cows would suck it down. It was good quality hay, and that was the goal once haying season started, was to put up the best quality hay I could put up, get it in the barn, around 17,000 bales, square bales. Now I'm doing round bales, which is less labor intensive, but was I truly successful? we had a good home life with the kids. But the turning point on the farm is when the grain bill, when the prices dropped, I had to go work out just to cover the grain bill on the farm. And I worked security for a number of years. I was a dog handler and trained dogs and stuff. And I became really successful at that. Because I took it on as a challenge, right? And while I was working for this one company, it was a mining company that was on strike. And I wasn't taking any of their jobs, all right? But at times we had where it became, the company that I worked for, they had a number of people that, I don't know how to best describe them, but they loved excitement. And they had weapons. And they would shoot them in the air. And it got to the point of where the strikers were shooting at the cook shack that was located on the mining company's property for the security. And these guys were shooting back. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way, right? So one of the goals that I had was to find common ground. I almost got fired over it too. But during that period, I had a number of strikers that were out on strike that were also, because we were a small community, that also knew that I worked there. And all they cared about was I was in their way of getting back to work. And in reality, I was doing nothing such even close, remotely close. I was being paid to guard the grounds of the mines so that people were not coming on it and doing damage or making things unsafe. And as being a dog handler, that made it even worse because I didn't need a gun. I had my dog. My dog would tell me if there's anybody out ahead of me or to the side of me and so forth. And the dogs were well trained. And 90% of them were German Shepherds. Good dogs. But I went about it to make it my mission to find common ground between what was going on the other side of the fence and this side of the fence. And it took me a while because I started asking for the main gate. And that was probably the one that got the most excitement, was the main gate. Because that's where, you know, what they called scabs at the time would come through and personnel would leave and you'd have to know each one of them, have them sign a thing when they're coming through, et cetera, right? But I wanted to reach common ground because I was finding that I had a bunch of roofing nails thrown at the end of my driveway. You know, we had companies that were hauling ore that their tractor trailer tires would all be slashed. Yeah, I mean, this security company kept things pumped all the time, and if it started quieting down, they found a way to get it to. And that wasn't my forte. My forte was we can all get along and find common ground. And that's what I did over a couple month period. As I started going up to getting out of the guard shack and standing next to the fence and talking with these guys and explaining to them, you know, I'm local, I'm here, I'm just doing my job. And I respect you guys just as much, and I hope you respect me. And I explained about the nails at the end of the driveway. What the hell with that? Well, you're taking our job. I said, no, I'm not. Were any of you here security? No, you guys here were underground miners. A hell of a lot more dangerous than what I'm doing. And that takes a special breed. So we started gaining camaraderie. And they loved doing crossword puzzles and brain teasers and stuff like that. And one of the things that I would do every night is I would grab the local paper to read during my night shift what was going on. And I started coming in and using the copier machine in the security office, and I would print out 10 to 15 copies of the crossword puzzles, the brain teasers, you know what I'm talking about. And I also would take, because my wife enjoyed doing those, and those are finding words and circling them, and I would print out a next page the following night when I would come in from the house. I had a scanner there. I would scan 10 to 12 copies of that. And upon getting onto my shift, once, the workers had left that were taking the jobs that the miners were striking about, and things would settle down a little bit, I would holler to the guys, come here. So they would come over, and I'd have a stack of these. And for the first couple nights that I did this, my wife always bought everything that's on sale. And she would buy a ton of these pencils for the kids for school. Long ones with erasers. And she'd have the sharpeners. So I took a empty chicken noodle soup container, and I packed right full of pencils that were unsharpened. And I gave them a couple sharpeners and a stack of these to do for puzzles. And it was quiet the rest of the night. The guys were busy, preoccupied doing those crosswords and the word finds. And when I was on shift, I would do that every night because I worked the night shift. And I worked the night shift because that gave me a chance to clean the barn, help with the milking, feeding of the animals, etc., etc., etc. I mean, I was doing 2 jobs. But everything quieted down with me being up there. And even the admin office for the mining company could see that. And then they started recommending that I take that duty every night because I was working 7 days a week. So they say, if you guys don't mind, we'd like to have Eric at the gate at night. Because I didn't have them cause any problems. Everybody was getting along. And I got my ass chewed out by my supervisor for even talking to the people on the other side of the closed fence, the gates. But the mining company saw the sharp drop in violence and things that were going on. Now, that's how I always approach every problem with there's got to be a solution, right? But we're talking about successful people. And to me, being successful is one that you not only accomplish the things that you want in life, but that you're a well-rounded individual, that your home life is good. Because, I've seen a lot of very talented business people that their home life was in shambles because they never were home. They worked all the time. Workaholics. Been there, done that. Yep. And they would define themselves as being successful. Yet, I've met other men that consider themselves successful. They had an 8 to for a job, 10-hour days, and they had a good home life. The kids were great, and they had a great relationship, he and his wife, and he deemed himself successful. But he didn't have a business that he was running. He went to work and he did a good job at work, but he worked for somebody else. But he deemed himself successful. And I've met men that were stay-at-home dads, raising the kids because the wife could find a better job that paid more and could afford to have one of them stay home with the kids when they were little versus dropping them off at daycare. Not for me. You couldn't pay me enough. But I watched as some of those guys excelled at the challenge with the kids. And they felt they were successful. And to me, they were. I mean, I'd rather go to work than stay home with my kids when they were little. They drive me nuts. But for each of us, we're going to define being successful different, I guess is what I'm trying to get across. But you can't be, in my eyes, a successful person if you're really good at one thing and you suck terribly at everything else. And that's why I say about being a well-rounded individual. If you toned it down on the business side and made yourself more available on the family side. See, workaholics, we don't do vacations. And time off is spent doing 110 things that we need to get done at home. And very rarely is that good quality time with the family. It's mowing the yard, getting the projects done. You're running 100 miles an hour, right? And you got kids that are dad, and you're like, not now, because you're too busy. And you continue to do that as they get older. Not now. See, one thing I didn't do well in the beginning was just that, because I was running with the dogs. And it wasn't until I got a little older that I started stopping and saying, yeah, what's up? Because you can't fake being interested in your kids' lives. You can't fake being interested in how your wife's day went. You can try. But people have the tendency to know when someone's being fake and when they're being receptive. And I would ask, what? Because I was truly interested in what they had to say. Or I would ask my wife, how was your day? And not sit there and continue eating or whatever I was doing. I would stop and make eye contact and say, how was your day? And just let her tell about how her day went. But when I worked security, when I was in the mines, I didn't talk shop. That was one thing that bothered my wife, was why was I unwilling to talk shop with her about my day at work? Was there days that I would just tell her things just to make her not worry? Yeah. But I said in another video that if she knew what I was up against when I was working security and when I was working in the mines, she probably would have had me find a different profession. But let me tell you, fireman is a very dangerous profession because you work long hours and you make mistakes if you're not well rested. So what would you say would define someone successful? Is someone successful that is religious? I don't think so. Because I've seen a lot of people that claim they're religious go to church every Saturday or Sunday and then go out and do the same asinine things over again, only to go back and repent or ask God's forgiveness. If that really meant anything, you wouldn't keep doing it. So no, I don't see someone that says they're religious as being successful, unless they're successful at bullshitting themselves. I've said before, I'm not a preacher, Bible pumping, not even close person. I don't go to church on a regular basis. I think that's a sense of community. That's not defining who you are and your relationship that you have with God. Because you don't need a third party to talk to God. Right? I've told you before, I do it all the time. And I try not to do the same asinine things over again that I ask for forgiveness in being lapsed or whatever. I try to strive to be the best I can be every day. Is that good enough? I don't know. I'm still here. Why am I still here? I've always kind of told people, because I lost my parents at a very young age, and I grew up fast. Well beyond my years is what they used to say. Most kids don't bury their parents when they're not even teenagers. They don't. It's not common. So you do have that tendency of growing up fast and being in that quandrum. But what I can tell you is back then I didn't have a strong faith. Actually, I was, if anything, I was cursing God. How could you? How could you take my mom from me? How could you take my dad from me? But I guess I still believed if I was cursing him. And when my mom passed away, my grandfather's, when I asked him, I said, why? He said, because it's her time and we're here on earth to either learn something or teach something. And once we've learned something that we need to learn, or we've taught something that we need to teach, then we get to move on to a better place. And that better place is being reunited with everybody that has gone before you to the next level. In the next level, there are no expectations. Everybody's happy. There's no judging. There's none of that stuff. Just take that in passing from me. All right? It is comforting. So going to church and repenting and all that doesn't deem you successful in the eyes of God. I mean, if you continue doing it, being a drunk, adulterous, what have you, is creating a business from scratch or taking over a business that was failing and turning it around to where it's making just ungodly amounts of money. Is that in your line of being a successful person? Is that it? Because we talked, they could be unsuccessful in their home life. We each have our own definition, I guess, is what I'm getting at, of being a successful person. It's something that you have to kind of think deep and within and understand where you're coming from when you're looking at what someone is either successful or they're not. You could take 10 people And all 10 are going to have a different definition of being successful. And that's okay. But I think we've gotten away from a successful person is a well-rounded individual that gives back to the community and is helpful, great family life. Just give us some thought. So on that note, you guys have a great Saturday. Write in the comments what you think is a successful person. I'm curious to know. All right, enjoy.